Hello and welcome to FYI Online. My name is Kyle Colmia and I'm here from the Student Success and Opportunity Center today to present to you characteristics of a successful student. Hopefully this workshop today will give you some tips on ways that successful students succeed in college. So before we dive into our characteristics, let's talk about common challenges that all students have in common. These challenges are across the board, so at any point in time, students may have experienced both anxiety as far as testing and studying go, and poor time management skills. We're all human, we all make these mistakes. So maybe you can relate to these two videos that I'm about to show you. The first one is over test anxiety, and the second one is procrastination, but we'll go back to this one and watch it first. There we go.
Straight out of high school, I went to college for a year. Didn't go very well. Had to drop out. And just basically worked a lot of different jobs since then, mostly in the restaurant industry.
My family is everything.
I miss you.
Education is super important. And the thought of going back to school was extremely intimidating.
Going back to school, there's definitely a lot of stress and anxiety there, so I finally decided that it was time to go back and get an actual degree to get a better career.
One thing I can't do is fail. I don't know how to accept failure, so school was one of those things that I always avoided because I thought I would fail.
Today, people generally believe that the mind and body are one and the same, and that one affects the other, and they sort of act as a whole. Test anxiety is anxiety that becomes associated with preparing for or sitting down to actually take a test. There's sort of cognitive or thinking layers to anxiety, such as, I'm never going to pass this test is too hard, I'm never going to get this material, I've studied all day, I'm still going to fail. So those are things you're saying in your head in response to the stress.
When I know a test is coming up, I've definitely the stress and anxiety levels start to go up. It can be a little paralyzing at times. I really try to really just channel the anxiety into studying. There are times when it seems like I can't get my mind to shut down. Sometimes my mind's telling me, oh, this is the test, you're not going to do well on this one. I really just start worrying about knowing the material.
Anxiety also has physiological signs, things you feel in your body. So my stomach feels a little bit upset, my heart's kind of racing a little bit, or I feel tense, I feel on edge, I'm having trouble calming down. All of those things reflect your body responding to stress.
Test anxiety physically affects my stomach, where it's hot and it's an uncomfortable feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I feel a lot of weight on my shoulders. It just tenses my whole body up.
There's a ton of things you can do to reduce your possibility of experiencing anxiety. Being aware of what you're saying to yourself, not allowing yourself to be thinking negatively about your performance or your abilities or your future, getting a good night's sleep, eating a healthy diet, getting enough exercise, doing something that's really fun or relaxing or has nothing to do with the exam the next day.
I definitely can get to a point where it just seems like everything's built up and I just need to shut down and step away for a little bit and have a little bit of time for yourself to do something that you enjoy. One of the easiest ways for me to get my mind cleared up is to go over to my shop and just start wrenching on my bike and get something done, something that requires my focused attention.
Exercise is definitely the key to relieve the anxiety before a test and even during schoolwork. You exercise beforehand, which alleviates the tension in your shoulders, the back pressure, headaches, and then your mind isn't focused on the pain anymore, and you're able to focus more on the test.
A certain level of anxiety is part of the learning process, it's part of the testing process, it's part of moving through life. And if you come to terms with that and learn how to prepare and manage that anxiety, then it works in your favor instead of against you.
I think everybody handles stress and anxiety completely different. They need to find out what works for them and just apply it. I'd advise anyone who is taking online classes, new students coming in, to really just take deep breaths and know that you've done all that you can by communicating with your teachers and studying, and just don't second guess yourself so much.
If you're worried about going back to school, you're not the only one. Most returning adults are all worried about going back to school. There's people out there to help you. The Continuing Ed and World Campus has plenty of help available, and they want to see you succeed.
All right. Again, maybe some of you guys have related to those feelings that the students were talking about regarding test anxiety. Now over to procrastination, again, something that we all struggle with. And this video I'm about to show you is called, The Science of Procrastination.
To learn how to stop procrastinating. But the clock is ticking, so why can't you seem to stop? Though the psychological causes are still debated, there's a human tendency to over or underestimate the value of a reward based on its temporal proximity. This is often referred to as temporal discounting. For example, if I offered you $100 today or $110 in a month, most would take the 100 and run. But what if, instead, I offered you $100 in a year or $110 in a year and 1 month? Suddenly you might say to yourself, if I can wait a year, I can wait the extra month. But the time and value difference are the exact same in each example. It turns out that human motivation is highly influenced by how imminent the reward is perceived to be, meaning the further away the reward is, the more you discount its value. This is often referred to as present bias or hyperbolic discounting. So being on Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, or YouTube is more rewarding than a perfect score on your test, until temporal proximity increases the value of a good mark on your test, and you cram all night. On top of this, every time something enjoyable happens, you get a dose of dopamine, which modifies the neurons in your brain, making you more likely to repeat the behavior. The problem is, video games or browsing the internet provide many small, quick, and continuous rewards, unlike your term essay, which is a one-time future reward. So how do you overcome the intrinsic urge to put off so many tasks? Unfortunately, there isn't just one solution, but try rewarding yourself in intervals with a snack, the internet, or other enjoyable activities. The Pomodoro technique makes use of a timer. Work for 25 minutes straight, and when you're done this, give yourself the reward in a 5-minute break. Then start the working clock again. Gradually increasing the amount of work time you put in will improve your high-level executive functioning. Acknowledge your procrastination. Your future self will procrastinate. It's been shown that creating a self-imposed, costly deadline is an effective way to manage your working habits, with externally imposed deadlines being even more effective. Also, try and enjoy the process of achieving something. Instead of thinking, only 20 more minutes of torture, try thinking, I'm doing something great, or I enjoy being productive. To the same token, make a list of the reasons you want to complete the goal. Reinforcing that you want to do it minimizes indecision. Oftentimes, procrastination is a symptom, not a cause, and the power of being properly motivated can take you far. Finally, if you can, remove the temptations. Turn off the internet, uninstall your favorite game, or work somewhere else. Putting obstacles in the way of your procrastination tools can be a great trick to keep you on track. Got a burning question you want answered? Ask it in the comments or on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe for more weekly science videos.
All right. So again, maybe you guys procrastinate a little bit. That's all right. Today we're here to help you figure out how to not do that. So successful students, let's dive into our characteristics. Successful students, they prepare before class. So they read the textbook or their material that was given to them before coming to class. A few tips for reading your textbook or materials, because sometimes they can be daunting, especially if it's new material. Use your context clues. That just means that instead of looking up every single word and disrupting your flow of reading, read until the very end of the chapter and then figure out if you can understand the difficult words just through the rest of the text. If you can, great. If you can't, then you can go back and review. But it's also okay to mark words you don't understand with question marks. Definitely, like I said, read until the end. Read until the end of the chapter, the book, the pages, because you'll get a broader idea of what the whole theme is about as far as your text goes. Also, I know some of us are pressed for time, and reading can be daunting. It can take a long time. So to make that go a little bit faster, you can scan and decode, which means you're focusing on the noun and the verb combinations. The nouns meaning the things that they're talking about, and the verbs meaning the action words. All right, and then you definitely want to underline and highlight main points in the text. Again, some more tips. Always have a pen and highlighter handy. I always have one right next to me when I'm reading. Highlight the main ideas in the text so that you can go back and review them. And then underline key facts and terms. Write down any questions that you might have in the margins or on a separate sheet of paper. And then write down also connecting ideas, connections to previous readings or class material. And then use your notes, your markings in your book to look over the information in your text or your notes right before class, so you can do a better job of taking notes and participating in class. All right, so successful students, they attend class and actively learn. So again, they attend class. You might see slogans around campus: if you want to pass, go to class. That's because the #1 predictor of academic success is actually class attendance. So definitely make sure you're going to most all of your classes. And arrive early, that's always a great idea. Sit where the instructor can see you so you can participate, and then focus and take notes during class. It's what we call active learning. A few tips for notes. I like to use the 3R method: record, reduce, review. Always include a heading when you're taking your notes. Capture your main ideas. It's not necessarily important to write down everything the teacher is saying, but write down the key ideas in your own words. You can also use pictures, graphs, or whatever it takes. Then when you're done with class, go home and review or reduce your notes. Summarize them either in a Word document or on a separate sheet of paper, and re-record those keywords, phrases, and questions. And then also link information from your textbook or other sources from class that help you understand the material better. And then you can use those reduced notes to help you review. So review from memory what you have learned and ask yourself how it relates to what you've already learned. And continue reviewing your notes before your class, at study sessions, before reading new material, and then when studying for tests. They're always a great tool for all of those things. Again, participate in class discussions. Because you're prepared, then you most likely will be able to answer questions from the teacher. However, also take this time to ask questions. The chances are that many other students in the class will have the same question if you are as well. And then view the opportunity as a class to learn. Remember, this is active learning. So when you're in class, you're not just listening, but you're listening plus processing the information. So successful students, they rely on their instructors and campus resources. Know that your instructor wants you to do well. That sometimes can be a misconception from students, but successful students understand that their instructor is there for them. So communicate with your instructor. Email them through your D2L site, and also know their office hours if you need to stop in and ask any questions. They'll definitely be there during office hours to help you, or will respond in a timely manner. Students, they'll approach the instructor for assistance before it's too late, so before they're at the failing point, just to get ideas on where they're at and how they can do better in the class. That's always a good idea, to just continue to establish rapport with your professor. Because while they may help you in that class, they may also be able to help you with a recommendation or anything else later in life. Also, use your campus resources like tutoring and other educational services when necessary. Again, we are from the SSOC, the Student Success and Opportunity Center on campus. We have lots of tutoring and study skill workshops like this one to help you out through your semester. So definitely check us out on our website if you need to. All right, also successful students, they have a study routine. Again, going back to the procrastination and time management, they tend to not do that as much. They prioritize studying, and they establish daily goals, both short-term and long-term, for their studies, and then they work ahead. While we did just watch a video on procrastination, we're going to watch another one on what to do mainly and how to avoid it more.
Let's be honest. Is there something else you're supposed to be doing right now? Do you have a paper due in 10 hours? Is there a stinky pile of laundry slowly inching its way across your bedroom floor? You should be doing those things, but instead you're here listening to me lecture you on YouTube. Wait. Don't go away just yet. The next 5 minutes will be the most productive bit of procrastination you have done all day. And you're not the only one procrastinating. Thanks to a suggestion by one of our viewers, today's episode of Wellcast is going to bring you a 3-step program to wrangle your monster of procrastination into submission. About 20% of the population identifies themselves as chronic procrastinators. People who constantly put off the things that they really need to do. And that is because procrastination is about lying to yourself. You know, telling yourself, I'll have plenty of time to finish that paper tomorrow, when you know you are way behind. In a recent study, 2 groups of university students were assigned to write 3 papers in 3 weeks. Group A was given the opportunity to turn in all 3 papers in at any point during those 3 weeks. Group B, on the other hand, had strict weekly deadlines for each paper. Ultimately, the ones who did the best on the papers were the ones given the strict deadlines. Group A, the students who had to pick their own deadlines, they did pretty poorly. Clearly, humans are not the best at regulating themselves. So, when it comes to procrastination, you have to trick yourself into getting the job done. And this brings us to our Wellcast 3-step method for stopping procrastination. Please pause and print out your worksheet at watchwellcast.com. Okay.
And you guys can go to that website, and there's actually several other study skill type worksheets to download. So you don't have to have it necessarily for this to watch this video, but if you want to in the future, feel free.
Are you ready? Step 1. Eat an elephant. Hey, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. Look, what I'm saying is, you need time to digest, or you're going to make yourself sick. Reward yourself for getting through parts of the project, rather than waiting to reward yourself after the whole thing's over. Okay, procrastinator, think about that one project that you really need to get done. But calm down. Instead of letting it overwhelm you, organize that project into small, bite-sized, manageable segments. Think about what needs to get done and write down what you're going to be doing to tackle this project hour by hour and make it specific. By breaking down this giant project into smaller tasks, this elephant will become a lot less daunting. Step 2. Pick out the itsy-bitsy goblins instead of going for the whole dragon. The hardest part about starting any project is always starting the project. A good way to get around this is to start a project off with the task you like the best. Listen, when you do something that you like, your brain releases dopamines, which makes you happy. Maybe it's decorating the cover of a report or writing a snappy intro into an otherwise incredibly boring paper. Step 3. Ignore the siren songs. Seriously, this step is straight out of Homer's epic poem, The Odyssey. In The Odyssey, our protagonist Ulysses is trying to get home. Unfortunately, this requires maneuvering through a strait of water, where sailors are often lured onto the rocks by creatures called sirens. Instead of giving up, Ulysses instructs his crew to tie him to the mast of his ship and for all of them to plug their ears. No matter how much he yells and screams to head towards the beautiful sirens, the sailors must keep on track. We're not saying that you need to actually tie yourself up to anything, but you should plan to clear any distractions that will hamper your ability to procrastinate later. For example, if you're a sucker for Facebook or online video games, have your parents or your roommates change the internet password to keep you on track for studying. The less temptations you give into, or have the ability to give into, the better you'll be at acing that exam. Okay, kiddos, let's recap. The best way to get around procrastination is to trick yourself into doing the work. It's true, though. We recommend that you do this in one of 3 ways. Number 1, breaking your tasks into segments. In other words, you go ahead and eat that elephant. Number 2, start with the most enjoyable part of the project. Go for those itsy-bitsy goblins. And number 3, avoid that siren song. Clear out those distractions so you can get the job done. Have these tips helped? Leave us a message below or email us at watchwellcast.com.
All right, so there are some just ideas for you on how to actually set your goals and set a study routine for yourself on a daily and weekly basis. Again, successful students, they develop their study skills. So while they're creating those goals and those deadlines, they're also constantly reviewing what they have learned and putting their information in note form. You can either do that by review cards, summary notes, and charts or diagrams. They also learn their learning style. Most learning styles are either visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, which means learn by touching. If you don't know your learning style, I would suggest going to this educationplanner.org website and finding out. It's a really great, simple quiz that you can take to figure out where you and how you learn. And then also it gives you tips on how to learn for your specific learning style, because while we might be a visual learner, then it would be best to write notes and write them down in note form. But if we're auditory, then we might want to be reading things out loud more often. Also, here is an idea of how to, again, create those study plans that the video was just talking about. We have study plans available at the SSOC, or you can use your own planner. But when you create a study plan, make sure that you know what your goal is and what you're preparing for and when it's due. Use at least 2 to 3 different types of study skills, and we'll talk about that in just a second, just to switch up your learning. Studies have shown that when you switch up your learning, you do remember things better. In the same light, don't exceed too much time studying in one day. The point is to study for a week or 2 in advance before an exam for shorter amounts of time than cramming that all into 2 days. That will definitely also help you remember information better. And then just, again, making connections with your professor, talk to him or her about your goals, or maybe other friends from class, or other people that you live with or are around in life. And then other strategies that you can use to help you prepare for goals, always working out, good sleep, relaxation. Those are all characteristics that successful students use. All right, so study skills. I like to think of them in 2 separate ways. You're going to have a preparation and a review strategy. They go hand in hand. So if you're reviewing for something, you have to prep for it first. So for example, over here on the left-hand side, we have make flashcards. Well, that's going to be your prep strategy, and then reciting your flashcards out loud or from memory will be your review. So all of these preparation strategies have a review strategy that go hand in hand with them. These are just examples. You can definitely use your own, but these are all good ways to study for large amounts of information that you learn in class. Again, prep strategies, making what you're going to study with, and then actually reviewing what you've made. All right, and finally, successful students, they take responsibility for their own success and have a great attitude. They're realistic about the time needed to study, so they don't say, oh, well, I only need to do this in a half an hour. I can write a paper then. They know that it's going to take them several hours, and they plan that out on a daily and weekly basis, thinking of those short-term goals. They also think of their long-term goals, like the future. They don't live in that present bias that we talked about at the beginning in the video of procrastination. They plan for the future. And they make school a priority. Just remember that even though school is overwhelming for the amount of time that you're in it, it will end eventually if you get to that goal. So make it a priority while you're in it, because once you're done with it, you're done, and you'll have your degree, and no one can take that away from you. And then they're excited about their future, like these 2 graduates here on the right-hand side. And I would like to end with this quote by Kenneth Blanchard. There's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in doing something, you do it only when it's convenient, but when you're committed to something, you accept no excuses, only results. I think that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're in school, to stay committed and to stay that successful student that I know everyone can be. All right, thanks for listening to our FYI workshop on characteristics of a successful student. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by the Student Success and Opportunity Center on the Learning and Resource Center building, 2nd floor. Thanks, and have a great day.